Greetings everyone and welcome to this class. We begin straight away with one question that we have. The question was about reciting the Guru's name mantra. So what is the need or the purpose for that, and what are the benefits, and is that important? So when we recite the name mantra of the Guru, basically we are making a requesting prayer. We are asking him to do something. So it's a petition, it's a prayer to the Guru. And we're doing it in order to urge his mind. Basically by urging or motivating his mind or getting his attention, we receive his blessings. So receiving the blessings from the Guru actually depends upon our request. And by uttering or repeating the name mantra of the Guru, we're making this request. So the main purpose of doing this practice is to receive the blessings of the Guru. Then the other thing, in terms of the benefit, when we encounter obstacles and we have difficulties, it is very beneficial to recite again the name mantra of the Guru, because it has the power of helping us clear away obscurations and negativity. So it's very beneficial in terms of removing obstacles, and it is necessary in terms of receiving blessings. Okay, so we continue where we left off in the text. So we know that we have two major outlines. The first outline is the proper way to rely on the teacher, and the second outline is how to train one's mind after one has generated this devotion. So in the English text, we are halfway, page 8. So you can see that this second outline again has two subdivisions: an exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity, and the second one, how to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. The first is divided into two: how to practice during the formal meditation session and how to practice during the intervals between sessions. So as you can see, that's the format that we used before. In terms of the actual meditation session, again, we have the same division: preparation, actual practice, and conclusion. And actually the preparation, which is, all the preparatory practices, are exactly the same. So the thing that is different is the actual practice, because now we have moved into another subject. And in terms of the actual practice, we have to train our mind to see that this life of freedom and endowments is greatly meaningful, and it's very rare to find. Okay, so we say that as it is in the first section that we did with how to properly rely on the teacher, we have the same type of structure. We have the same outline. So what you do in the session, what you do in between sessions. In terms of what you do in the session, we have the preliminaries, the actual, and then the conclusion. So if you look at the text, it says regarding the preparation, one is meant to make supplication as before, with a prayer ending with, I make a request to you, Buddha Vajradhara, the Supreme Guru Yidam, synthesis of all the objects of refuge. And then you continue with the actual reflection. So what that indicates is that we do the same preliminary practices. There are 6 preliminary practices that we did before when we were training to develop proper Guru devotion. So we have to do them now again for the second subject. So just to refresh your memory and just connect with that material, the first of those preparatory practices is to clean, first of all, the room and arrange representations of the body, speech, and mind of the Buddha. Because we will be doing the practice in this room, and we will be inviting all the figures of the field of accumulation. We visualize them, we invite them to come, we make requests to them. It will be inappropriate and it will be bad manners to invite such guests in a place that is unclean. And for that reason, it's important to, first of all, clean the room and prepare it and beautifully arrange those representations of body, speech, and mind. Having done this, the second preliminary that we do is that we arrange beautifully whatever offerings we have obtained. These offerings must be obtained without any deceit, without deceitful means, and also we should arrange them like with an open heart, without miserliness. So we should make sure that we offer the best quality, and we offer things in abundance, and we organize them in a beautiful way. So this is not the time to be stingy, and this is not the time to offer things that you have not obtained in a proper way. As for the actual offerings, we can offer anything from incense, flowers, different things that we eat, the water, the smells, the sounds, and so forth, all the usual offerings. Once we have done this, we move into the third one. And the third one is assuming a proper sitting posture. And then from there, going for refuge and bodhicitta. One thing that we didn't mention before when we were talking about the preliminaries is that underneath your seat, it is very good to make the sign of a clockwise swastika. And usually we do this by using grass, and the grass that we use is either kusha grass or durwa grass. Both of those types of grasses have special significance. So the kusha grass is traditionally used to remove impurities and pollution, contamination, impurities, and so forth. So it establishes a very good auspicious interdependence for purity and cleanliness. And as for the durwa grass, which is the buffalo grass in English, it's a type of grass that has many joints. And it because it has many joints, it's quite long, actually. And it establishes the auspicious interdependence of a long life, or the auspicious interdependence that you will be able to be doing those practices for a long time. And as we organize and put those symbols and grasses under our seat, again, we reflect how our teacher sat under the Bodhi tree at Bodh Gaya, on a cushion made of grass, and he sat with a determination that he would not rise from that seat, from that meditation, until he reached the state of enlightenment. So it's very good to reflect on all those issues. So we say we arrange the seat, we sit on the seat, we assume the posture of Vairochana, and then from within a particularly virtuous state of mind, we do certain things. So the particularly virtuous state of mind indicates that we generate the bodhicitta motivation, and from within that state of mind we go for refuge, we meditate on bodhicitta, we contemplate on the four immeasurables, and so forth. So that was the third preliminary. The fourth one is to visualize the merit field and make petitions. All right, so so we do this. Then the fifth one is making the 7-limb prayer along with the mandala. And the sixth one is where we make further petitions. So when we make further petitions, we make petitions in 3 ways. The first way is making petitions through a representative. So in this case, we visualize that a replica of our root guru from the field of merit comes into the crown of our head. He takes his seat there and facing the same way that we do. So another way, also facing the merit field, he's there to assist us to make requests for whatever we want to request. So at this point, in order to invite him, we recite the verse that says, "My precious and glorious root guru, please come and take your seat at the crown, at the moon and at the lotus and moon sit at the crown of my head. And with this verse, we invite him, he comes, he takes his position, and from that point onward, we make the request. We can either do the extensive version of the request or the short version of the request. We are requesting together. So we, the practitioners, we're making this request, but also our guru is making the request on our behalf also to the field of merit. So this is the request through a representative. The second type of request we do is the heaped request. So we are requesting things in a combined way, and we do this by reciting the foundation of all good qualities. And then after that, we begin consolidating all the merit fields so that we end up with one single date, one single figure that is the main figure of the merit field. And there we make the request in a manner of putting a peg into the ground, so a single pointed request, because we only have one figure. And once we have made this request, we see this central figure, which is Buddha Shakyamuni, come and dissolve into our root guru at the crown of our head. He also turns into the aspect of Guru Shakyamuni, and then we receive blessings from him as we make the petition, the final petitions that are relevant to the subject we will be studying. So this is where we come, where the text says, make the petitions as before. This is exactly the sixth preliminary. Okay, so just to refresh our memories, when we did the first subject, which was the proper way to rely on the guru, we did all the preliminaries. We came to the last preliminary, which is making the petition. And after we've done the third type of petition, which is like driving a peg into the ground, after that, from the heart of Guru Shakyamuni, that is our crown, rays of light emanate, and at the tips of those rays of light, we establish the visualization of all the lamas with whom we have a dharmic connection. And we contemplate the benefits of relying upon the guru, the disadvantages of not relying on the guru. We contemplate that faith is the root of the path, and we recall their kindness in order to generate respect for them. And we have to contemplate that the guru is the Buddha. So here we have to employ as many scriptural quotations and as many different lines of logic we have until we actually find that point of certainty, the point of certainty that says, my guru is 100% the Buddha. There is no other way, no one else, there's no other Buddha other than my guru. So as we say, we have to remain in meditation and employ these means, which is quotations and logic, until we actually reach that point of certainty. And once we reach that point of certainty, we from that point onwards, we need to do what is called the single-pointed placement meditation. So in this way, we can combine the analytical meditation, where we do all this investigation, with placement meditation. Okay, then having done this, we consolidate all those gurus with whom we have a dharmic connection that we have emanated. They all come and reabsorb into the guru at the crown of our head. So this one, the guru now is Buddha's Guru Shakyamuni, and then this Guru Shakyamuni dissolves within ourselves. By dissolving within us, we also become Buddha Shakyamunis, and by sending rays of light from our heart, we strike all sentient beings that are around us, and they also transform into Buddha Shakyamunis. And we think that I have placed all sentient beings into the state of Buddhahood. And from this point onwards, we recite the verse that says, I prostrate and go for refuge to my guru, please bless me. And we visualize and recite the mantra, Om Muni Muni Maha Muni Soha, in the heart of all the Buddha Shakyamunis that we have established. And once we do this, then we are ready to conclude the session. As we conclude the session, it is very good to examine whether this was a good meditation session or not. If we have done well in this meditation, we can rejoice and say, I will keep up this good quality. If we have not done well, it is good to recognize this and have some sense of regret, but also determination that says, okay, I didn't do so well in this session, but from the next session onwards, I will put some extra effort to do better. And then after this, we finally conclude with all the dedication and the prayers and so forth. Okay, so that was the first subject. So now we're on the second subject. So when we are doing the second subject, we have to do all the 6 preliminaries as we did before. And when we come into the actual part, the first thing that we will do is this bullet point quick meditation on the first subject, on the previous subject. That was the proper way to rely on the guru. And then after that, we start with the actual subject of this session. And the actual subject of this session is how meaningful is this life and how difficult it is to find. Okay, so if you look into the text, it says, after we finish with the requests, I make a request to you, Buddha Vajradhara, the Supreme Guru Yidam, synthesis of all the objects of refuge. Once we finish this, it says, then reflect. All countless mother sentient beings and myself, having taken rebirth in samsara, have undergone for a long time various and intense suffering. This is due to the fault of not having generated the special realization which enables us to appreciate the great meaning of a life of leisure and opportunity, as well as the difficulty of attaining it. Therefore, I beseech you, Supreme Guru Buddha, Guru Yidam, bless us so that the special realization of the great meaning of a life of leisure and opportunity, as well as the difficulty of attaining it, is generated in all sentient beings' mind, as well as mine. So you see, we have adjusted the words of the petition, what we're asking for. Due to this fervent request, from the body of Guru Yidam at the crown of your head descends nectar, together with 5 colors of light, which enters into you as well as in all mother sentient beings' bodies and minds. It purifies all negativities and obscurations collected from beginningless time. In particular, it purifies all spirits, illnesses, obscurations, and negativities that hinder the generation of the special realization of the great meaning of a life of leisure and opportunity, as well as the difficulty of attaining it. Our bodies become limpid, clear, and luminous. All good qualities such as merits, lifespan, and so forth improve and expand. In particular, imagine that the special realization of the great meaning of a life of leisure and opportunity, as well as the difficulty of attaining it, is generated in all of our minds. So that's the petition that we do, the request, and then we engage the actual part. Okay, so as you can see, we are halfway page 9, and it begins with the actual practice, and then it says the actual practice has 2 subdivisions. So what is the actual practice? Actually, if you go on the previous page, I'm sorry, we have an airplane passing, very rare thing happening. Airplane flying. Okay, all right, it's gone. Okay, so we are dealing with the first subdivision, which is an exhortation to take full advantage of a life of leisure and opportunity. And in that, we have what to do in the actual session, what to do in between sessions. In the actual session, we have the preparation. We have dealt with this, and then we have the actual practice. So now we come into the actual practice. So as you can see here, the actual practice says it has 2 subdivisions: the great meaning of life of leisure and opportunity, and the difficulty of attaining it. So the easy path only gives 2 outlines here. However, if we look at more extensive Lamrim texts, we will find that there are 3 outlines. So there is 1 additional outline that comes before these 2. So the first one really should be identifying what is a life with freedom and leisure, freedom and opportunity. The second one is the great meaning of such a life. And the third one is the difficulty of attaining it. Actually, we need to perform this meditation, and we need to go through all those stages because we need to overcome 4 misconceptions that stops us from engaging this practice. So the first misconception is that if I just want to be happy and successful in this life, I don't need to practice Dharma, right? There are other things I need to do, but practicing Dharma is not really in the list of to-do things. The second misconception that some people have is that even if I do need to practice Dharma in this life, I see that I need to practice Dharma in this life, however, I'm not capable of doing it, right? So I don't have the capacity, I don't have the ability to do it. It's a misconception to think that. The third misconception is that, okay, I understand that I need to practice it and I can practice it, but I can do it in the next life. So I can spend this life being careless and just relaxing and having a good life. And when the next life comes around, I will practice then. The fourth misconception is that, okay, I will do it in this life, but not straight away because I'm not going to die straight away. Okay, so that's the fourth misconception to overcome. So, as I say, the reason why we meditate on the great meaning of this life of freedom and endowments and its rarity is in order to overcome these 4 misconceptions that we have. The first misconception is that in order to be happy in this life, I don't need to practice Dharma. So the overcoming the first misconception is actually establishing that, yes, we do need to practice Dharma, especially if we want to be happy in this life. So the necessity, the need for practicing Dharma, as we establish this, we overcome the first misconception. The second misconception says that, okay, I might need to practice it, but I'm not capable of doing it. So we will overcome this second misconception by actually establishing that we have the ability to do it. The third misconception is that, okay, I need to do it, but I don't have to do it in this life. I can do it next life, right? So we need to overcome this misconception by establishing that actually it will be very hard to find another life like this. And the fourth misconception is that I don't need to practice it right now. Okay, I'll do it this life, but not right now. And again, that's a misconception. We need to overcome it and establish that there is urgency. We really have to start practicing right now. So let's look at the first one, the first misconception that says that in order to be happy, I don't need to practice Dharma. So, what's the purpose of Dharma? Why do I need to practice Dharma? Actually, you need to practice Dharma because in this life, you can see that all sentient beings, they want to have happiness. Nobody wants to experience suffering, right? And this happiness comes from practicing the Dharma. So you need to practice Dharma because you want to have happiness and you don't want to have suffering. So with this logic, we overcome the misconception that the practice of Dharma is not necessary to be happy in this life. The second misconception that says, okay, I will practice it, but honestly, I don't think I'm capable. You are capable, you have the ability to practice Dharma because you have this perfect combination of external and internal favorable condition. The external favorable condition is that you have met with a qualified teacher, and the internal favorable condition is that you have this full range of freedoms and endowments. You have the complete set of 18 freedoms and endowments. So you are definitely capable of practicing Dharma. The third misconception is the one that says, it doesn't matter, I'll do it in next life. You need to do it in this life because it is actually very rare and very difficult to establish another life with this type of opportunities. And In addition to that, you need to do it right now. You need to overcome the misconception that I will practice, but later on, there's no urgency. Actually, there is, because the time of death is uncertain. So because you don't know when you're going to die, it is very important that you practice right now. So the reason why we meditate on the subject of the precious human rebirth is to overcome these 4 misconceptions. Okay, so as we say, we do all this, and then if you look at the text, it says, while meditating on the Guru Yidam on the top of your head, contemplate as follows. So you're meditating on the Guru Yidam because this is what you have established through the 6 preliminary practices, right? And you still are meditating on the Guru Yidam at the top of your head. And then you have to contemplate as follows. Leisure means having time to practice the holy Dharma, and opportunity means having all the external and internal facilities to practice it. In brief, this life endowed with leisure and opportunity that we have got now is extremely meaningful. Okay, so we have this term, leisure and opportunity, or leisure and endowments. Okay, so what is the word leisure indicate? It indicates that we have freedom from 8 types of oppressive situations. And if you were to find yourself under those oppressive circumstances, you will not be able to practice. But you are free from those, and therefore you have the leisure to practice. Okay, so that's the leisure. The second one is translated here as opportunity. Most often you find it as endowments, and endowments means that you have a full set of external and internal favorable conditions. So life of freedom and opportunity, or leisure and endowments. So first of all, we're looking at the leisure. As we say, leisure means that we have freedom. We have freedom from 8 oppressive situations. And because we are not oppressed by those unfavorable situations or conditions, it means we have the leisure to practice the Dharma. So those 8 are divided into 4 that have to do with non-human states, and 4 that are related to a human state, a human rebirth. So the 4th that are non-human states is to be born as an animal, as a hungry ghost, to be born in the hell, or to be born as a long-life god. And as for the 4 that are in relation to human existence, is to have wrong views, to be in a place without the Buddha's teachings, to be in a remote or barbarian place, and to have incomplete faculties. The fact that we are free from any of those situations that are oppressive situations means that we have the leisure to practice, and therefore we talk about leisure or freedom. These are the 8 freedoms, the 8 leisures. So if we look at those 8, unfavorable situations, we say 4 of them, they have to do with rebirths that are non-human rebirths. So we talk about the rebirth as an animal, as a hungry ghost, as a hell being. This, we will have the opportunity to talk about these types of rebirths later on when we talk about suffering of the lower migration. So we will not mention or elaborate for them here. We can make a mention for the 4th one, which is to be reborn as a long-life god. So as a long-life god here indicates particular class of gods of the form and the formless realm. In particular, we're talking about gods in the results of who abide in the result of the 4th absorption, and there they develop what is called absorption that is lacking any discrimination. So they're unaware of what is going on, basically. And also we have gods of the desire realm, and gods of the desire realm, they are simply totally distracted by the incredible pleasures that they can enjoy. So being reborn as a long life god under any of these circumstances, you can see, is not favorable for your practice of Dharma. So these are the 4 situations of lacking freedom related to a non-human existence. So if we have another 4 that relate to a human existence. And the first one is having wrong views. So wrong views here meaning that you don't believe at all, you don't accept the existence of the 3 jewels, you don't accept the law of cause and result, you don't accept past and future lives. So these things will be a really real obstacle if you had these views, a real obstacle to practicing Dharma. Another oppressive situation is that you are without the Buddha's teachings. Without the Buddha's teachings, it means you are born in an era at a time where the Buddha's teachings are not available. They're not alive. We don't have the tradition. The teachings are not available. So definitely that's not a good situation. The next one is to be born in a remote area. So the remote area here indicates that you're born in a place where the Buddhist teachings have not spread. So although in this world the teachings exist, they at present, imagine if you're born somewhere where there's no Buddhism, no Buddhist teaching. So serious impediment. And the last one is that you have incomplete faculties. So you might be in a place where the Buddhist teachings have spread, but if mentally you are impaired, and if you also cannot speak at all, cannot hear, cannot speak, cannot communicate, that would be a serious problem. So this describes the 8 oppressive situations. Okay, having explained that we have freedom from those 8 oppressive situations, we move to the next one, which is having endowment or opportunity. So you can see from the term endowment or opportunity, it means that you have all the favorable conditions to support you for your practice of Dharma. There are 10 of those, and again, we split them up into 2 groups of 5. The first group of 5 are called inner endowments, or you can say they are personal endowments, and the next set of 5 are outer endowments, or endowments that come from others. They come in relation to others. So the first group of 5 that are inner endowments, they refer to certain favorable conditions that we have and are included within our own continuum. So they are personal. Whilst the ones that are external, they are not our own. They are provided from others. So they are external, they come from others. So let's look at the first list, the list of personal endowments. The first one is to be born as a human. The second one is to be born in the central land, central area. The third one is having all your organs and senses. The fourth one is not be prevented by heinous crimes. And the fifth one is having enduring faith in the source. Okay, so if we look at the text, right, the text says leisure means having time to practice the holy Dharma, and opportunity means having all the external and internal faculties to practice it. So with this sentence, it is actually identifying, roughly identifying leisures and endowments. Okay, so let's look again at this list of the 5 personal endowments or opportunities. The first one is to be born as a human. I think that's straightforward. The second one is that you're born in a central land. The third one is that all the senses and the organs are complete. They are functioning as they should be. The fourth one is that you're not prevented by the 5 heinous crimes. It means you have not committed any of those very heavily negative actions. So you don't have that burden. You don't carry that. Now, the last one, the fifth one, is saying having enduring faith in the Vinaya. So having faith in the Vinaya. So we need to look at this term Vinaya here, because sometimes when we talk about the 3 baskets, Vinaya is just one of the 3 baskets. However, we find in the training of the Bodhisattvas, we find this term Vinaya, and Vinaya is explained as being twofold. One of them, Vinaya, refers to discipline, and the other one refers to subduing or eliminating your afflictions. So if we look at the three baskets or the three pitakas, obviously we have the Vinaya or the discipline Pitaka that refers to the first meaning of Vinaya, which is ethical discipline. And then we have the Sutra Pitaka and the Abhidharma Pitaka that are used in order to subdue our afflictions. And therefore here the term Vinaya, having faith in the Vinaya, actually includes all three baskets. Okay, so once again, the list: to be born as a human, to be born in the central land, to have all your senses and organs complete, not to have committed the 5 heinous crimes, and having enduring faith in all the three pitakas, or in all the three sources, or Vinaya, as understood threefold. Okay, so we have looked at from the 10 endowments, we have looked at the first list of 5, which are the personal endowments, and now we look at the second list of 5 that are endowments that are provided by others. They depend upon others. The first one is that the Buddha has come. The second one is that the Buddha has taught. The third one is that the teachings remain. The fourth one is that the teachings are followed. And the fifth one is that other people are supportive. So the first one, meaning the Buddha has come, it means that the Buddha has actually come into this world and remains without having passing into paranirvana. The Buddha is present, in other words. The second one is that during that time, from coming until passing into paranirvana, the Buddha has given teachings. The third one is that the teachings remain. The teachings remain means that there are people who actually take on those practices, they practice those things, they generate results, they obtain the results, such as the 4 fruits of a stream enterer up to an arhat, and so forth. The next one, that the teachings are followed, it means that when great practitioners obtain those results, ordinary people can look at those people, those other advanced practitioners, and they become very inspired. And then they're inspired to also take on the practice. The last one that says that others are supportive, it means that other people actually support practitioners, so they will offer them clothes, accommodation, food, and so forth. All the basic necessities are freely provided by others. Okay, so now if we look at this list, there is the question whether we actually have these 5 endowments that come from others, because you and I, we do not live at the time where the Buddha, the actual Buddha Shakyamuni, is present, right? We do not have the opportunity to hear his direct actual teachings, and we do not have the opportunity to have those direct, to see the initial disciples of the Buddha practicing and see the results and so forth. So it is said that for us, in our era, we don't have the actual 4 out of the list of 5 of external endowments. However, what we have is similitudes to those, or replacements for those. So the Buddha has come, it's like, in terms of, we don't have the actual Buddha, but we have the teachings of the Buddha. We know the Buddha has come into this world, and we have great teachers who followed his example, Master Nagarjuna, Lama Tsongkhapa, and so forth. The teachings, there are teachings that are given. We have access to the teachings. The teachings remain in the sense that the teachings have not disappeared. The teachings have not declined. The teachings actually proliferate. The teachings definitely are there. And the teachings are followed. There are many people who are inspired by the achievement of other great practitioners. So we don't have the actual ones, but we have replacements, suitable replacements for those. Okay, so in this way, we have identified now the list of the 10 endowments, 5 that are personal and 5 that are external. So it's very good thing, because identifying that we have all the 8 freedoms and the 10 endowments actually establishes that we have the capacity to practice. We have a body like this with all these incredibly favorable conditions. So anything you want to practice, you definitely have the ability to practice. There are no excuses. You have the ability. Okay, so having identified those, it is now very important to sit down and reflect. If I were born as a hell being, due to this incredible suffering in the hot or the cold hells, whichever hell I would end up, I would have no opportunity to practice Dharma. This type of existence is not an existence that allows anyone to practice Dharma. If I were to be born as a hungry ghost, I will be constantly tormented by hunger and thirst. Again, I would not be able to engage any Dharma. If I was born as an animal, I wouldn't be able really to understand the Dharma. There is there's mental blockage. I don't have the mental capability as an animal to engage those practices. And also, if I were born as a long life god, I would be like a god in the desire realm, that I'm constantly totally consumed by the pleasures of the desire realm. Or I could be one of those gods in the state of non-discrimination, being in this very long equipoise, not being aware of anything around me. Thank goodness I rejoice. I'm not born in any of those oppressive situations. I have escaped this. It means I have the leisure. It means I have the opportunity, because anyone who is in any of those states does not have freedom, does not have leisure, but I am free. And then when I consider also what might happen in a human existence, like, for example, I could be born in a place where there are no teachings. I could be born, even as a human, I could be born in a remote area, like barbarian, where the teachings have not spread. Or I could be born as someone who senses, like, my mind is not working well, or my speech or my hearing is not working well. Or I could be born as a human where, I'm not missing anything in terms of my senses, but I have wrong views. Like, how horrible that would be. And thank goodness I am free from any of those conditions. So identify all these types of freedoms from non-human states and within a human state, and rejoice. Just think, how fortunate I am that I have these freedoms. So, as we say here, first of all, we need to identify all those freedoms and those endowments, and then we need to make prayers and requests. So, in our prayers and our requests, we're saying, I am so fortunate that I have obtained a human rebirth. Actually, it's a precious human rebirth, because it is characterized by the full set of the 8 freedoms and 10 endowments. And in addition to that, I had the good fortune to meet with a teacher, and that teacher is teaching me the Lamrim. So I have the opportunity to meet with the teachings and receive this guidance from a teacher. So the external and the internal conditions are there. And in addition to that, right now, I am not suffering from any illness. All my senses are working. I have my health. So right now, this is the time where I must make the effort. If I don't try now, if I don't make the effort to place the imprints in my mind from this practice, I will be missing out on a great opportunity. There is no guarantee that I will get such a life again. And if I don't do anything now that I have all these favorable conditions, actually, that will be something to really regret. It will be totally foolish. It will be similar to the situation of a merchant who arrives in this faraway island that is full with jewels. And instead of picking some of the jewels and bringing them back, he comes back home empty-handed, thinking, I got into the island of jewels, but I didn't bring anything back with me. So it would be even more foolish and even more regrettable than coming empty-handed from the island of jewels. So think very, think very strongly about this, and make the petitions to the guru to bless you to be able to make the best, recognize the opportunity that you have, and make the best in terms of practice. And as you make this request, imagine that nectars and rays descend from the guru, and that you develop this appropriate realization. Okay, so going back into our text, we are at the bottom paragraph of page 9. We have the first line and a half that actually identifies the freedoms and endowments, where it says leisure means having the time to practice the holy dharma, and opportunity means having all the internal and external faculties to practice it. So we have identified it. And then continuing after that, we have to contemplate how it is very meaningful, and then how it is very difficult to find it. So in terms of being very meaningful, it says, in brief, this life endowed with leisure and opportunity that we have got now is extremely meaningful, because depending on it, we can practice generosity, which is the cause of gaining the body, and prosperity of a fortunate rebirth, morality, patience, and so forth. So, first of all, we say that I am very fortunate that I have this full set of freedoms and endowments. And having obtained this type of rebirth, I have to understand that this type of rebirth is greatly meaningful. It means I can achieve a lot with this type of rebirth. And then we give the reason for that. And basically, we want to establish that you can obtain all your goals, whether you're talking about immediate goals or whether you talk about your ultimate goal. So first of all, it says that depending on this type of body, physical basis I have established, it says here, I can practice generosity. Generosity is actually the basis for obtaining a good higher rebirth as a god or as a human. Then it says I can practice generosity, and practicing generosity is the cause that gives you wealth, it gives you resources. I can also practice patience, which means that I'm establishing the causes for having a good retinue of harmonious friends around me, and so forth. So all those things, immediate results, if you want, or temporary results, are results I can achieve in this life. But in addition to that, this type of life is the optimum opportunity for me to establish my ultimate goal. So even within this short lifespan of this degenerate era, I can obtain Buddhahood, which is the ultimate goal, all right? So because I can achieve all of this, it is very meaningful. So we perform this type of analytical meditation until we induce certainty, and when we have certainty, then we engage placement meditation. Then we continue with the next sentence. It says, in particular, with this body, the 3 types of vows can be generated, and we can even attain easily Buddhahood in a short life of the degenerated times. So another thing, why it is so meaningful, it's because this physical basis is the perfect basis for taking vows. So first of all, the vows of individual liberation, then in addition to that, Bodhisattva vows, and then in addition to that, Tantric vows. So the fact that we can take all these vows is dependent on having a physical body. So still we're talking about the great benefit of this. And then we continue by saying, therefore, I will not waste this life, which is perfectly endowed with leisure and opportunity, that is difficult to be attained and that is extremely meaningful once it has been attained, but rather I will take full advantage of it. So having realized here what an incredible opportunity we have, that we have the whole list of freedoms and endowments, we say that this life is extremely meaningful. I can achieve so much with it. And in addition to this, it is very rare. So now we make the pledge and we say, I promise I will not waste this life. And when we come to this point of making the pledge, according to our determination, we are also requesting blessings from the Guru to be able to do that. So we petition the Guru to bless us to do accordingly. So it says, Guru Yidam, grant us your blessings so that we will be able to practice like this. This is here we make the petition. And then, because we have made this petition, due to this fervent request from the body of the Guru Yidam, at the crown of your head descends nectar, together with 5 colors of light, which enter in you as well as in all mother sentient beings' bodies and minds. It purifies what hinders this realization. So here specifically is the realization that this precious human rebirth is greatly meaningful. And then it says, in particular, imagine that the special realization of this topic, that it is very meaningful, is generated in all of our minds. So as we did before with the Descent of Nectars, we remove negativity, remove obscurations, and then we receive the visualizations, and also we think that our life, our merit, and so forth, all those things increase. Okay, so remember that we have explained that we can expand and have 3 outlines. The first one is identifying the features of this life, and the second one is to see that it's greatly meaningful. Meditating on how meaningful this type of rebirth or existence is actually establishes that we must practice Dharma. And identifying all these features actually establishes that we are capable, we have the ability to practice Dharma. Okay, so we come to a natural break in the text because the next section that begins at this point is the difficulty of attaining it. However, it's a long session and we would not be able to conclude it, and Geshe does not want to rush any of this. So we will stop the presentation here and we'll use the remaining time for questions and answers if you have any questions. So before we stop, I'll just summarize what we have done. We're looking at the main part of the actual session, which has to do with the precious human rebirth. And here in the easy path, we see that there are 2 outlines. We have to reflect on 2 subjects. First of all, how meaningful it is, and second, how difficult it is. However, we said that if you look at more extensive Lamrims, you will see that there is a 3rd outline, which comes first. So the first one is to identify the features of this precious human rebirth. Then we reflect how meaningful it is. And then the 3rd one is how difficult it is to obtain it. So here in the easy path, on page 9, in the bottom paragraph, we just have 1.5 lines that you could say corresponds with identifying the leisures and endowments. So it's the line that says leisure means having time to practice the holy Dharma, and opportunity means having all the external and internal faculties to practice it. And then from that point onwards, it begins the section of explaining how meaningful it is. And this is the section that we concluded. And next session, we will do the difficulty of attaining it. So this is for tonight, and it is time for questions and answers now.
Hello, thank you. We'd like to invite Voula to translate the English question. Hi, Krishna. I would like to ask, when during meditation session, we feel some energy like blessings. So the experience is that when I am visualizing the 5 colors radiating, I do feel light entering the crown of my head and I smell incense. How should we deal with such feelings, and how should we continue with the meditation session? Thank you.
Okay, so Geshe was just reiterating the translation. So there you are meditating, and you have reached this point where you do the visualization of the descent of nectar, and this nectar comes down with light. And you have a very pleasant experience, unusual and pleasant experience at this point. Actually, this can become a little bit of an obstacle to your meditation because you have such a pleasurable experience. Your mind becomes distracted from your actual meditation subject. So at this point, you have to rely upon your recollection and your introspection. Recollection here, it means you have to remind yourself, don't be distracted now with these pleasurable sensations and the nice smells and whatever. Remember what is your actual meditation session about. So if, let's say, you're meditating on the proper way to rely on the guru, just say, okay, remember what your object is. Remember what you're meditating upon. And you must use your introspection to keep checking, like, am I meditating on what I'm supposed to be meditating, or have I been distracted? So really, it is very important not to allow any experience to interfere and distract your mind from your meditation. And you will do this with your recollection and introspection. So there is a question about the 5 heinous crimes, because it came up tonight when we were giving the list of the 10 endowments. We said in the first list, which is the 5 personal endowments, we say that we are not prevented by the burden of having committed the 5 heinous crimes. And then what is the purpose of having to confess having done the 5 heinous crimes when we recite the Sutra of Confession? Okay, so either we have done them or we haven't done them. Why are we confessing? So the thing is that when we do the Sutra of Confession, we are confessing perhaps negativity that we have done in previous lives. We have taken rebirth since beginningless time. And the thing is that we have done everything. So we have done the 5 heinous crimes. We have committed those things. And it's very possible that we have remainder of negativity, meaning we have not purified it in some previous existence. And so when we recite the Sutra of Confession for confessioning, we confess because we want to purify any negativity from past lives. But when we are discussing the precious human rebirth and we say we have the 5 personal endowments, and within them we say we are free from having committed the 5 heinous crimes, this refers to this life, this very life. In this very life, we have not created the heavy karma that comes from engaging the 5 heinous crimes. You know, with these 5 heinous crimes, it's not just that you have the difficulty as soon as you pass away, but also in that life that you create them, you will have a lot of obstacles. So in this life, we are free from having this heavy karma. Yes. Okay, so we have a question with 2 branches. The first one is clarification about the 4th one of external endowments. So when we talk about endowments that come from others, the first one is that the Buddha has come, the second one is the Buddha has taught, the third one is the teachings remain, and the 4th one that the question is about is that the teachings are followed. And we said that in this, we give examples that we ourselves, we see other, let's say, important practitioners who practice, and we see them practicing, and we see them achieving results and progressing along the paths, and they become like our examples, right? And that inspires us. So the question is if it only refers to those high practitioners, or practitioners of the past. And that is not the case. Like we see that ordinary people like ourselves, right? Ordinary people like ourselves, they engage the teachings, they take the teachings seriously, and they practice and they achieve results. And that becomes as an inspiration for us. right? So they provide inspiration. We see, look, this person was just like me, an average person like me can engage the teachings and can achieve such and such results. So this is the meaning of this point. And then for the second part, we say that it is very good to perform this meditation that says this life is very meaningful, and we say it's very meaningful in the short term, it's very meaningful in the long term, and every moment can be meaningful. So the question is, what is the difference between being meaningful in the short term and being meaningful every moment? So when we say that this type of precious human rebirth is meaningful every moment, it means you can make every moment very meaningful. It means that within a very short duration of time, you can achieve something meaningful. So you have 5 minutes, you can make a mandala offering. You have 1 minute, you can make a single prostration. So in a very short period of time, you can actually create substantial virtue with this type of existence that you have. It is said that the benefits that come from prostration, as you prostrate, and you stretch out your body covers a certain portion of the earth, right? And there are so many atoms or grains of earth under your body. So they say for however many atoms of earth you cover with your body when you do a full length prostration, you create the merit to be reborn that many times as a universal monarch. So one single prostration can give you so much merit. So this is what it means, like it can be meaningful. Every moment you can do something meaningful. When we say it is meaningful in the short term, what we mean is you're not going to become enlightened immediately, straight away in this life. So it means you have to make sure that in your next life, immediately next life, you have a good rebirth. So that's a short-term aim. You want to establish a good rebirth as a God, as a human. And you can do this on this life. So that's the difference between the two.